2021 Bordeaux is starting to hit store shelves now. A number of viewers have been asking me for my thoughts regarding that vintage and wines that might be worth considering. So today, I'm going to briefly analyze the 2021 vintage in Bordeaux and then identify 9 best buys from the Bordeaux 2021 vintage that you may wish to consider. If you're someone who enjoys drinking your Bordeaux young without having to cellar it for an extended period of time, and who appreciates lower alcohol by volume, freshness, and acidity, then 2021 Bordeaux may very well be a vintage that you want to consider. These are going to make some excellent restaurant wines because these wines will not require an extended decant before you enjoy them. In general, they're going to be characterized by lower alcohol by volume, higher acid, a red fruit profile, as well as plenty of savory notes. Bordeaux has had a strong run of vintages for the last 8 or 9 years, and in fact 2015, 16, 2018, 19, and 20, 2022, and 23 were all either quite good to outstanding. To be sure, however, 2021 is not included in that same category. 2021 was a very difficult vintage, to put it mildly. It's hard to generalize the problems that were experienced by wineries since it varied a bit by location and producer. However, some of the problems that were encountered include conditions such as frost, too little rain, too much rain, problems with fruit set, mildew, not enough sunshine during the growing season, fragmented veraison, and unpredictable weather right before harvest. In the past, these conditions would have combined to produce an absolutely disastrous vintage. But given some of the improvements both in the vineyard and in the winery, there were a number of producers in Bordeaux that were able to produce some very enjoyable wines in 2021. Just to give you an example of some of the techniques that were used, of course, the best producers use an extremely rigorous selection of fruit, and in 2021, they used only the best of the best in their top wine. Volumes are going to be quite low for a number of the wines. In the case of Pichon Lalande, for example, they had to discard almost 2/3 of their harvest. Another technique is called bleeding off. This is where a producer will drain some of the juice to increase the proportion of skin contact relative to juice. This produces richer, more concentrated wines with deeper color and more tannins. Other producers also needed to chaptalize, or add some sugar to the must. This enriches the wine and increases the potential alcohol by volume. With that by way of background, I'm ready to reveal my 9 best buys from the 2021 Bordeaux vintage. But before I do, I just want to make sure that there's absolutely no confusion in what I'm saying about 2021 Bordeaux. This is a vintage for wine drinkers, and you'll want to buy these wines for personal consumption only. For those of you who watch my videos to get wine investment ideas, you will not make money buying and later reselling 2021 Bordeaux. The first Bordeaux Best Buy from the 2021 vintage is Domaine de Chevalier. Domaine de Chevalier is located in Pessac-Léognan and is classified in the Grave classification. This wine sells for right around $75 a bottle in the United States, and it's definitely one of the more successful efforts of the vintage. This wine is a blend that consists of 80% Cabernet Sauvignon, 10% Merlot, and there's smaller amounts of Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot. This is an impressive wine in terms of its structure and concentration. So much so, in fact, that this wine is probably going to require at least 5 to 6 years of additional bottle aging before you enjoy it. This intriguing wine has mixed black, blue, and red fruit, and flavors and aromas that include cedar and sage. The tannic structure is definitely high, but the tannins are ripe. As mentioned, though, this one will definitely benefit from some additional age. This is a wine that was extremely highly regarded by everyone who reviewed it, and it's definitely a wine where you almost don't even need to excuse the vintage. Really an impressive effort from Domaine de Chevalier. Next up is the 2021 Pichon Longueville Comtesse de Lalande, which I'll refer to as Pichon Lalande for short. Of course, Pichon Lalande is a second growth in the 1855 classification of Bordeaux, and it's located in Pauillac on Bordeaux's left bank. As I mentioned previously on this channel, Pichon Lalande has been absolutely firing on all cylinders lately, and its new winemaker has done a remarkable job since he took over in 2012. Since at least 2015, Pichon Lalande has been producing wines that certainly rival and are on par with that produced by the first gross, and yet it costs a small fraction of the price. This 2021 Pichon Lalande, for example, is certainly a candidate for wine of the vintage, and yet it sells for right around $169, compared to $600 or more for most of the first growth Bordeaux. The varietal composition for the 2021 Pichon Lalande is quite different from a typical vintage. There's far less Merlot than usual, and it comes in at only 2% for 2021. 88% of the wine is Cabernet Sauvignon, and another 10% is Cabernet Franc. This is a very high percentage of Cabernet Sauvignon, and part of the reason for the low Merlot percentage is the fact that Merlot struggles with mildew, and mildew ran rampant in 2021. As mentioned, there's unfortunately only about 25% of the volume for the Pichon Lalande that you'll find in a typical vintage. So if you're interested in buying this wine, you'll want to act quickly because the supplies won't last very long. This is a wine that matured for 18 months in 60% new French oak, and interestingly, they used 13% press wine in this blend, which is certainly quite a bit higher than usual. This is a very highly acclaimed wine, and it's easy to see why. This wine is beautifully layered and sensuous with flavors and aromas that include blackcurrant, violet, mixed spice, and clove. It's already extremely enjoyable, but it will certainly cruise in your cellar for up to 20 years or so. It comes in at a very, very reasonable 12.9% alcohol by volume. Located in the Margaux appellation on Bordeaux's left bank, Chateau Giscours is a third growth in the 1855 classification of Bordeaux. For a number of years, they were producing some rather mediocre and uninspiring wine, not befitting of a third classified growth producer. However, back in the 1990s, they began an ambitious replanting program where they planted more than 100,000 new grapevines in the vineyard. They also increased the percentage of Cabernet Sauvignon in their plantings, and they began converting from machine harvesting to manual harvesting their fruit, which is what you would expect from a quality-minded Bordeaux producer. These investments and changes began paying dividends around the year 2000 or so, and since that time, Giscours has been producing some of the best wines that they've ever made. So the next Bordeaux Best Buy from the 2021 vintage is the Chateau Giscours. This wine is a blend that consists of 65% Cabernet Sauvignon, 32% Merlot, and 3% Petit Verdot. This is an extremely impressive effort by Giscours in 2021, and it was well received by critics. This wine has flavors and aromas of red and black fruit, violets, pencil lead, tobacco, and herbs. If you can give this one a couple years of additional bottle age, you'll definitely be rewarded for it, and you can enjoy it over the next 15 to 20 years thereafter. Fans of right bank Bordeaux will definitely want to consider the 2021 Chateau La Gaffelier. La Gaffelier is located in Saint-Emilion on Bordeaux's right bank, and this was absolutely one of the standouts of the vintage. This wine sells for a very reasonable $75 per bottle, which is certainly a very fair price for a wine of this quality. La Gaffelier has 38 hectares of vines that are planted to 70% Merlot and 30% Cabernet Franc, and some of their best vines are in a prestigious area that's located fairly close to Chateau Ozon and Belair-Menange. The 2021 La Gaffelier, however, was only 58% Merlot and 42% Cabernet Franc. Again, this is because Merlot struggled a bit in 2021 with mildew issues. This is another wine that did extremely well with critics. This wine matured in 50% new French oak, and there's an emphasis on purity of the fruit. This is an extraordinarily elegant wine with pronounced aromatic intensity. This wine features plum, mocha, spice, floral notes, and it has extremely silky, velvety tannins. This is a wine that will show well young, but you can enjoy over 18 to 20 years with no problem at all. Chateau Palmer in Margaux is a third growth in the 1855 classification of Bordeaux. Their top wine is certainly always a treat to taste, but unfortunately the price has gotten quite high in recent years. But fortunately they also make a wine that's a second label named Alter Ego. Since 1998, Chateau Palmer has produced the alter ego wine from specific plots in their vineyard. This wine is always an excellent value, and it's consistently high quality, but costs much less than the top wine. This is definitely a wine that's capable of aging, but it's also able to be enjoyed young, and certainly much younger than the top wine from Chateau Palmer. The 2021 vintage is a blend that consists of 60% Cabernet Sauvignon, 32% Merlot, and 8% Petit Verdot. This wine features flavors and aromas of plum, black cherry, mocha, violets, and herbs. It has a medium body with silky tannins. If you're interested in wine recommendations, wine collecting strategies, and learning more about wine, please do subscribe to my channel. I've been collecting wine for more than 15 years and also have a level 4 diploma from the WSET. So I have both formal certification as well as substantial practical knowledge from the School of Hard Knocks. Leoville Barton has always been a special producer for me, as it's one of the very first wines that I started collecting. I've always appreciated the fact that this wine offers consistently high quality at a fairly reasonable price relative to many producers. This 2021 Leoville Barton scored between 93 and 94 points with the vast majority of critics, yet sells for only around $89 per bottle, which is certainly a very reasonable price for a producer that's classified as a second growth in the 1855 classification of Bordeaux. Leoville Barton is located on Bordeaux's left bank in Saint-Julien, and it has around 51 hectares of vines. This 2021 Leoville Barton consists of 84% Cabernet Sauvignon, 11% Merlot, and 5% Cabernet Franc. This is definitely about half or a little bit less of the Merlot that they typically include in the blend, but again, Merlot struggled quite a bit in 2021. This wine matured in 60% new French oak, and there was definitely an emphasis on the purity of fruit. This is a wine with impressive freshness, and definitely one that you want to have in your cellar if you're a fan of Leoville Barton. The Grave appellation, and Pessac-Léognan in particular, was one area that did fairly well in the challenging 2021 vintage. So the next best Bordeaux buy for 2021 is the Smith-Haut Lafitte. Smith-Haut Lafitte has been on a tear lately and has been producing a number of strong wines year in and year out. The 2021 vintage is no exception. This wine consists of 63% Cabernet Sauvignon and 33% Merlot. There's also smaller amounts of Petit Verdot and Cabernet Franc in the blend. This wine has impressive balance and freshness and comes in at a reasonable 13.5% alcohol by volume. It features flavors and aromas of mixed red and black fruit, licorice, tobacco, and spice. This wine sells for right around $145 per bottle. Smith-Haut Lafitte also has an excellent hotel very close by with a Michelin 2-star restaurant. So if you're going to be visiting Bordeaux, that's definitely one that you want to consider. Savvy bargain hunters will definitely want to consider the next Bordeaux Best Buy, namely the 2021 Clos du Marquis, which sells for around $75 per bottle. This wine is a second label from second growth Bordeaux producer Leoville Barton. This wine is always produced from fruit that comes from a small walled vineyard that has top terroir in Saint-Julien. Specifically, the primary portion of this vineyard is located close to Leoville Barton and Leoville Poifferet. The 2021 vintage is a blend that consists of 67% Cabernet Sauvignon and 19% Merlot, and the rest is Cabernet Franc. This wine matured in 40% new French oak. Flavors and aromas for this wine include red currant, blackberry, menthol, and spice. It has ample acidity, but it's also a very structured wine that will definitely benefit from a couple more years of aging, and you can certainly enjoy it for another 12 to 15 years after that. The next Bordeaux Best Buy comes from Saint-Emilion on Bordeaux's right bank. This wine sells for an extremely reasonable $30 per bottle. Even though it's been creeping up in price over the last few years, it still offers extraordinary value for this price point. This wine is mostly Merlot, but it does include a splash of Cabernet Franc. This is the 2021 Chateau Laroque. Although I've certainly been singing the praises of Chateau Laroque for a number of years now, Chateau Laroque is a wine that's gone largely under the radar because until recently it was sold exclusively in France, and it was a wine that was not sold on Primeur. But word is definitely getting out, however, and they've had a string of excellent vintages, and so the price has been gradually creeping up a bit, but this still offers shocking value at the $30 price point. Chateau Laroque's vineyards are located on the east side of Saint-Emilion in limestone soils and very close to Trollong-Mondot, so certainly an excellent area. They use organic practices in the vineyard. Chateau Laroque's style tends to be elegant and classic. It produces a wine that is subtle, but which offers extremely high quality, especially at the price. You can expect flavors and aromas of black cherry, plum, leather, licorice, spice, and mint. Bordeaux is one of my absolute favorite regions, and I've published dozens of videos about Bordeaux, including videos that cover every classified growth Bordeaux producer, as well as videos analyzing a number of the recent vintages. If you'd like to see more of these videos, please be sure to check out this playlist that's linked above.